Former President Trump firing back after he was indicted over his handling of classified documents.
The ridiculous and baseless indictment of me by the Biden administration's weaponized Department of Injustice will go down as among the most horrific abuses of power in the history of our country. Biden is trying to jail his leading political opponent.
Or he was indicted because he's Trump. Meanwhile, MSNBC host Rachel Maddow making this suggestion after she heard the news.
Whether part of the issue here is not just that Trump has committed crimes, but that Trump has committed crimes and plans on being back in the White House. Do they consider, as part of a potential plea offer, something that would proscribe him from running for office again?
So was that the goal of the left all along?
Let's ask Fox News contributor Joe Concha. What's up, Joe?
How we doing, guys? That was like a Seinfeld episode you guys just did.
We do it a lot here.
Thing. That was tremendous.
What do you think's going on with Rachel Maddow?
I think she said, as you said in the tease, the quiet part out loud. This is to either get Trump out of the race through the weaponization of the justice system or to put his legal troubles front and center now through November of 2024. Because if you do that, champagne corks are going off at the White House because, and at MSNBC across the street for that matter, because they don't have to talk about the current president. Usually elections are a referendum on, in this case, a Joe Biden. So now they don't have to talk about wages not keeping up with inflation. They don't have to talk about crime, people moving out of cities like San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and moving to places like Florida and Texas and Tennessee because the crime is so bad. They don't have to talk about the border, which is a national security crisis, humanitarian crisis. Don't have to talk about China and Taiwan. Don't have to talk about the fact that we have test scores at a 30-year low in this country. All those things are bad for Joe Biden. So if it comes down to Donald Trump and his legal troubles being front and center, and the media will make sure that happens, then that's good news for Joe Biden because it's 2020 all over again. He barely has to campaign.
Yeah.
And there's no COVID, but he has an excuse.
Yeah, and in the same week that we find out he's taken bribes from Ukraine and to the tune of $10 million for he and Hunter, we're talking about Trump. You know what's interesting as I watch this? So they want, it's very clear to me the effort that they've put into indicting Trump and, you know, trying to make sure he's not running or at least that he's super smeared so that he has a very low chance of becoming the nominee. Right. That's the plan. Shows that they're very afraid of Trump being the nominee. And yet we hear the talking heads on the GOP side saying, we need a moderate. I mean, I interviewed, you know, Karl Rove very recently, and he was like, you can't think about the primary. You have to think about the general. The general, Donald Trump, you know, is not electable, and yet they're spending this much energy on getting rid of Donald Trump.
And yet you look at the Real Clear Politics average, at least for now, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden. Real Clear Politics average is like an average of all polls. You don't just cherry pick one, right? So he has a very good chance. I mean, these elections come down to a few thousand votes in places like Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. And in those states, if you look at polling for Joe Biden, he is vastly underwater. And then when you look at independents, he's polling at 26% approval. Among those folks, the type of people who decide elections or suburban women, they're angry about the education system right now in terms of what they're teaching. We talked about the test scores because we're focusing on letters and LGBTQI plus 2S and race and obviously gender identification, sexual orientation. If those centers come to the forefront, then you have a Glenn Youngkin, Ron DeSantis type of moment where it comes down to issues. Instead, it's probably going to come down to, is Joe Biden too old or is Donald Trump too corrupt in terms of all of his legal troubles? And again, all these legal processes have to play out to this point. We don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know if that's the goal. I think the goal is to keep that stuff on the front pages and not the issues.
You forgot the A.
I forgot the A?
Yeah, you've left the A's out.
Wow, this is like Wheel of Fortune, you know? Can I buy a vowel?
I don't even know what the A stands for. What does the A stand for?
Can you buy a vowel?
Absentee mind, I guess, because I forgot the A. No idea.
By
the way, I love this. Can you turn your head just a little? I mean, the mullet is tremendous. Are you getting a lot of feedback on that?
Good, only positive feedback.
Okay, good for you.
Especially from
we've become accustomed to it, but we do occasionally get.
How do you say mullet in Spanish?
I don't know. I can say it in
moulet. It's a moulet.
That's French. Moulet.
That's French, actually.
All right. Joe Concha.
Bye.
Thank you, Joe.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.